I'm going to say this plainly because it matters. Most people don't quit building things because the work is hard. They quit because carrying the risk alone changes how your brain works. When you work for a regular job, risk is shared. Payroll shows up whether the company had a great month or a crappy one. Someone else worries about cash flow. Someone else worries about absorbing all the consequences. When you build your own thing, that buffer totally disappears. Suddenly you are the system. Every decision echoes. Every delay compounds. And every misstep or mistake shows up somewhere else. Even when things are going well, your nervous system never fully relaxes. It's not paranoia. It's just responsibility in a way you've never really felt before. You're holding uncertainty on your shoulders, not for a day or a week, but like continuously, 24/7. That does something to you. It sharpens you in some ways, but quietly exhausts you in others. One of the biggest lies about entrepreneurship is that freedom equals peace. You gain control of your time, but you lose the illusion of safety. You gain flexibility, but you inherit consequences. Those consequences are things that most people will never feel or understand. That's the trade, and it's not evenly priced. Here's what happens internally. Your brain becomes hyper-attuned to signals, any little one. Sales fluctuation, traffic dips, engagement changes, a convoluted review. Things that used to be noise start feeling super personal. You don't clock out anymore. Your mind keeps running scenarios while you try to, sleep at night. You're running awake, running hot. If this continues, then that happens. If this fails, then I adjust over here. If it works, awesome. How long before it stops working? That mental load doesn't show up on a to-do list, but it's work. It's heavy work. And it's why entrepreneurs can be physically still and mentally exhausted. Another thing people don't talk about is decision density. In a job, decisions are layered. You make some, your manager makes others, leadership handles most of the rest. When you're building something yourself, that stack collapses and you make all of them. Pricing, positioning, timing, hiring, firing, when to push, when to pause. Even choosing not to decide or delaying a decision is still a decision. And every decision drains energy. This is why experienced entrepreneurs get quieter and quieter over time. Not because they lost passion, but because they learn to conserve cognitive bandwidth, brain capacity, mental real estate. I like to call it mental real estate. Early on, you burn energy proving that you're capable. Later, you protect your energy so you can stay in the game. Now here's where things get dangerous. When your results slow down, your brain looks for certainty. It starts scanning for exits, shiny objects, new ideas that promise relief, something else that's maybe the trend of the month or the golden goose. Not because they're better, but because they feel different. Different feels like hope when you're tired or exhausted. That's how people abandon solid foundations for temporary relief. That's how businesses stall and ultimately fail. And that's why a lot of you are stuck in the same place you were this time last year. Consistency feels boring when you're carrying the risk because boredom doesn't calm the uncertainty. It just allows you to think a little louder. Only evidence calms the uncertainty, and evidence ultimately takes time. This is why the middle phase is brutal. You've outgrown beginner momentum, but you haven't reached compounding returns yet. You're good enough to see what's missing, but not far enough to feel secure or safe yet. That gap is where most people crack and fall through. They interpret discomfort as a warning instead of a signal that they're operating without external guardrails. Here's the truth most entrepreneurs have to learn the hard way. No one's coming to validate this for you. There's no finish line where someone taps you on the shoulder and says, you're safe now. Stability in entrepreneurship is self-created through systems, through reserves, through pacing, and through emotional regulation. The people who last don't eliminate fear. They normalize it. They stop panicking every time uncertainty shows up. They stop interpreting anxiety as failure. And they understand that discomfort is the cost of autonomy. That doesn't mean suffering endlessly alone. It means choosing the right kind of stress. The kind that builds something, not the kind that burns you down to the ground. You don't need to move faster. You need to move sturdier. Cleaner decisions, fewer commitments, more margin. Margin in your schedule, margin in your finances for sure, and margin in your expectations. That margin is what turns risk from crushing into manageable. And here's the part that nobody posts about. The longer you do this, the less you crave external approval. Not because you become cold, but because you become a well-oiled machine. You become calibrated. You stop needing constant reassurance, and you trust your judgment more. It's not even confidence. That's earned self-trust. It's more than confidence. It's proven. It's built through surviving uncertainty over and over again. This feels kind of heavy. It's because it's real. You're not broken for feeling it, and you're not weak for noticing it. You're just playing a game that most people are too afraid to play. And games like this require endurance more than talent. So if you're still here, still building, still showing up quietly, you're doing better than you think. Not because it feels good, but because you haven't walked away from responsibility, especially when you're the only one holding yourself accountable. And that's the part that actually matters. See you in the next one.